Hey everyone, today we're going to cover understanding and using AI at our side, from prompts to agents. So we're broadly going to talk about 6 topics: AI today, what's hype, what's real, prompt engineering, how to write better prompts, context engineering, how to serve right context at the right time, AI agents, what they are, how they work, and how to use Claude Code to build a multi-agent system. Last but not least, taste, what it means, why everybody is talking about taste, and why does it matter. So let's start. AI today. When we're talking about the timeline of AI, we're really talking about a narrow sliver of AI, that is the generative AI. AI started in 1960s and it's a very broad term. But now we can think of everything before 2022 November as BC era, before ChatGPT. And 2022 November, ChatGPT launched. 2023, it's considered as the year of RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which allows large language model to have access to external knowledge base to get a more up-to-date information to reduce hallucination. And after that, there's a bunch of open source models. We can't even fit to the whole screen. And 2024, December, Christmas time, DeepSeek moment, that's when we start to see those large language models have reasoning ability. When you're asking a question, they will actually start to having a thinking process before generating the response. And then 2025 is considered as the year of agent. We're seeing AI systems can autonomously plan, come up with a to-do list, execute complex tasks without human intervention. It feels like there's not a day goes by without hearing news about AI. Just last week, Google released a very impressive imaging editing tool, Nano Banana. With so many developments happening so fast, I'd like to share 2 mental models can help us think about AI clearly. So the first one is tide versus wave. This is from Seth Godin's blog. I read this on March 19th. I don't know if he was thinking about AI when he wrote this, but I immediately realized this is a very useful mindset for us to navigating our current time. Tide is caused by gravity, something fundamental, unavoidable force. Wave, on the other hand, can be caused by many random things: wind, weather, passing ships. So whenever I feel overwhelmed or feel like I have AI fatigue, I try to ask myself, is this tide or wave? Does this feel like something fundamental, or is it more like a surface level noise? And the second tool I'm going to share is something called Gartner Hype Cycle. It's a chart trying to map the life cycle of technology. All those key technology changes society share very similar 5 phases. Phase 1 is innovation trigger, when early stage breakthrough spark interest. And then phase 2 is peak of inflated expectations, when media and industry buzz create hype, leading to unrealistic expectation. Phase 3 is trough of disillusionment. That's when you started to see negative press and limitations uncovered. Reality checks slows down adoption. Following that is slope of enlightenment, when first best practice started to emerge. Their practitioners become early adopters. And phase 5, reaching to plateau of productivity. That's when the technology becomes mainstream and we started to see real world value. But this doesn't mean 100% of the companies are using this. It's more about 20 to 30% of the companies are starting to using this technology. For example, mobile, cloud computing, and machine learning have already reached to phase 5. For people who are curious, it took mobile computing 14 years to finish this cycle. It took cloud computing 9 years to go through the cycle. GenAI has already moved from the peak hype to today's trough of disillusionment. However, different GenAI technologies are at different phases. Context engineering and multi-agent system are currently at the peak high. We started to see best practice emerging for prompt engineering, and RAG is the farthest ahead of this life cycle. In fact, we built one in 2023. It's called Scout, which allows you to talk to outside knowledge base. Outside knowledge base has 15 years of catalog of our articles and videos. You can ask questions about outdoor trends, gear recommendations. In 2024, we removed a dependency called LangChain. Now the architecture is built entirely using OpenAI and Pinecone. In 2025, we enable Scout to have web search ability. And for my engineering fellows, this is the entire structure from front end to back end. Front end is a Next.js app, and backend is a Django app. And they're talking using something called WebSocket API. When a user asks a questions, the front end is going to get the user token and as well as the user query, pass them to the WebSocket API, and the backend is going to verify is the signature match for the user token. Only if it's matched, it's going to go through the RAG component. Under the RAG component, the user query will be converted into something called embedding. Embedding is just a list of numbers trying to represent the semantic meaning of user query. And then the embedding will send to Pinecone to do vector similarity search. Pinecone will try to find the most relevant articles or video transcripts and compile them as a context, pass them to large language model. Large language model is going to think, hey, is this context relevant to answer the user question? If the answer is yes, the large language model is going to use the context to generate response. If the answer is no, then it's going to go through this web search route and using the web search the response to generate response. The response will pass back to WebSocket API and stream back token by token, and the user will starting to see the answer on the front end application. So the key takeaway is Tide can tell us about what to focus in the long term. In terms of GenAI, watch out for information interaction paradigm shift. Search is so fundamental to us, but it's going to turn into agentic, switch from librarian mode to concierge mode. Human AI collaboration. We will use AI as a tool, as a thinking partner, as a co-creator. And knowledge democratization. AI is going to get better and better at coding, research, medical, even science. Hype curve helps us to decide when to act. It can help us to avoid four traps, avoid adopting something too early or too late, avoiding giving up too soon or hanging on too long. Now